Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I've got a pretty exciting project. I'm going to be installing manual hubs on my 1999 Toyota 4runner. Alright guys, so we've got quite a bit of parts here, and really the only reason why I have all these parts laid out here is because of this new Spartan locker that I'm going to be installing. You can see here it's just a bunch of plates that replace the spider gear. And one of the things that I've noticed with these lockers is that they can be quite loud when driving on the road. So I didn't want to have that problem with the automatic lockers, which are what these are. And so what I opted to do was install manual locking hubs, as you can see here on my workbench, as well as the CV axles that go with it. So that way I can disconnect the CV axle, and if the CV axles aren't turning, then that means the differentials aren't turning, and all the all the noise that you normally would hear aren't going to be there with this automatic locker. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I don't plan on deleting my ADD system, the automatic differential disconnect. I plan on leaving it just for the off chance that, let's say I do leave my hubs locked, that the lunchbox locker is really quiet and has really good road manners, but we'll see. But if it doesn't, then I'm just going to leave things unlocked and drive it daily driver, two-wheel drive most of the time. And then when I need it, I'll lock the front axles, and then the lunchbox will kind of engage. So let me walk you through some of the parts I have, because there's quite a bit here, and I tried to go budget build, but I kind of went a little insane. Kind of. I've seen some other YouTubers that have gone even more insane than I have, buying everything new. But let me walk you through some of those parts. What I'll do is I'll share with you guys my spreadsheet for tracking all these parts and the costs and where I bought things, and most of the parts are bought from Camelback, but some of the parts are actually from the local salvage yard, or actually another salvage yard, and I'll get into that. So here you'll see I sourced some manual hubs, and these hubs I actually got from out of state. I was on travel for business, and that salvage yard in Oregon had these manual hubs. Unfortunately, they didn't have a lot of other things like the steering knuckle, which I could have used maybe, but actually I didn't need it, and I'll explain how I made this a little bit cheaper by not buying those. So these hubs cost me about $50 a piece. They obviously did not look like this out of the salvage yard. I had to paint them and clean them up a little bit, but it wasn't very hard. I bought new gaskets for these as well. So you can see here, I got the gaskets. The one goes down on the bottom, and then this one goes in between here when I remove this, and I'll show you guys that later when I install everything. One thing to note is when you buy these hubs, make sure they come with everything you need. And most likely, you're not going to get these studs that are on the actual wheel hub, and just because nobody removes these. And so normally you would take the whole entire steering knuckle and you would get the hub with it, with the studs already in there. And normally you'll get these only right here. So you'll get like the nut, the cone washer, which is the most important thing because that's the thing you can't find anywhere else. And then the this washer, the regular washer. Let me take it out, hang on. So you get a regular nut, you get a washer, and you get the cone washer. So it kind of just goes on like that. The cone washer makes things seat better, and then the washer, and then the lock. And obviously this one goes on top. So I had to find these studs somewhere, and you'll notice that these studs are actually longer than what the original ones are, but they actually still work. As long as they clear, they should still work just fine. Hang on a second. And they definitely do clear, as you can see on the bottom. So I got these studs from another project that I did. So when I put in my rear e-locker, I did the differential stud eliminator, which basically meant I took all the studs out of the differential in the rear and I replaced them with actual bolts. And with doing that, I had a bunch of extra studs laying around, so I went and found them all. And since I bought a new axle when I did that e-locker swap, I had my old axle and my new axle that had a ton of these studs left over. So I went and found 12 of them, and I only had 11, unfortunately. Well, I had 11 that were the same, but on the axle itself, there were a couple that were kind of weird and different. Like the threads weren't all the way cut down, so I had to cut one of them manually, but that's an option. So if you need to find the studs, let's say you buy the hubs and they give you all the hardware. Usually they give you this hardware here, and make sure you get 6 of each for each hub, so 12 total for each one. You can go to like any local salvage yard and try to pull them from existing vehicles that have differentials in the rear, like a Toyota 4Runner or Tacoma, whatever, and just get 12 of them, because if you don't, these won't work, and you won't be able to bolt it. Another option, which I don't know if this would work, but you actually can just buy a bolt the right size, and you see here, you can just put the bolt in, because you're gonna have, like I mentioned, you're gonna have the cone washer and everything, and you can probably just put a bolt in and bolt it down and torque it. The torque spec's not that high, so that's another option. So really, like I said, the most important thing is this cone washer, because without this, you end up having to buy a new aisin stud kit, and those things for some reason are god-awful expensive. I think for a set of 12 you're going to be looking at almost $80. So enough about these hubs. Let's talk about the wheel hub itself. So these are pressed in, so you can't just go to a salvage yard and pull them. So unfortunately I couldn't take the entire steering knuckle when I was out of state, and it doesn't matter, they didn't have it anyway, so I went and purchased these from Rock Auto, and they're relatively inexpensive, and I hope they're gonna have good quality, but there's not really a lot to this. I mean, they're just studs and metal. So these were about, I think, $38 or so for each one, which is really cheap. And really, this is the only thing that's the most important, because you'll notice there's studs here, or sorry, there's threaded holes here for the studs. That's what bolts the manual hub to. And then what you can do is use your existing steering knuckle, because everything is interchangeable, right? And so you really don't need the steering knuckle from a Tacoma. You only need the wheel hub with obviously the studs and the manual hub. And so I went and just purchased this piece. It was cheaper, $37. And what I plan on doing, well, maybe what I plan on doing is just pressing out my old hub from my my Toyota 4Runner, and then pressing in this new wheel hub in its place, and then swapping over what I need to swap, like the ABS tone ring and all that. And plus, if you get the Tacoma steering knuckle, then most likely it's not going to have ABS, and your ABS is going to not function. And don't quote me on this, but I think your speedometer stops working as well if you don't put the ABS back in. So that's why I went this route. I think it's significantly cheaper. I don't really know how much it costs to get a steering knuckle and all that, but I've heard in the $300 to $400 range. So I paid so far, $50 for each of these, $100. These were $40 each, let's just call it, so $180. And then I bought these CV axles from them as well, and these were $35 a piece, so $70. So all in about, let's see, 180 plus 70, so 250, right? So it's getting close to that $300 to $400 range, and $400 is probably going to get you to that, all those steering knuckle stuff and the wheel hub. But that's what I did, and normally I probably wouldn't have bought these, but they were $35, so I figured, okay, let's just get them, because new CV axles are like $80 a piece, and you would get warranty with them. But since these are on manual hub vehicles, they probably weren't turning very often, and the boots were still good, and obviously they didn't look this good when I got them. I cleaned them up. I just like working with clean parts, even though my hands still get dirty. But that's that. And then one other tip for CV axles is when you get them, make sure these C-clips are still there. This one normally is still there. This is the side that interfaces with the front differential. But this side here, you'll notice the C-clip is missing. And there's also a snap ring, or sorry, this is a snap ring. The snap ring and the snap ring spacer is missing. So normally they have to take that off before they can pull this out. So, and then they just throw it on the ground. So if it's not included, you'll have to buy it. They're not that expensive. You'll see here, I have them. And then one other thing that's missing as well from this CV axle is this safety bolt. And I made my own safety bolt. I hope I never have to use it because the washer is very flimsy. But the bolt you actually can order as well. I just couldn't find the part number, even though I did have it. But I'll share that part number with you. So if you need to buy the snap ring, this guy here, that goes here, and then the snap ring washer. So normally it would go like that. The snap ring would go here, and then the safety bolt would go on. And you know, obviously this would be the knuckle. So make sure you buy all that, because most likely when they pull these CVs, these are going to be missing, unless you're pulling it, and you make sure you keep these, okay? But I had the salvage yard pull these for me, so I can just pick them up. All right, some other parts that I decided to buy, which maybe are optional, maybe are not, but I've heard that these bearings get destroyed when you start pressing on them. And so I got 2 brand new wheel bearings for the front. You know, nothing special. They're about 80 bucks a piece. Even the coil ones, which are OEM as well, are still like 80 bucks. So I figured just buy from Toyota. And then I got some new, I guess, C-clips. These hold the bearing in place. So I got a pair of those, you know, one for each. And then you'll need some seals. So there's 2 seals on this job. One is here where the knuckle, so just imagine the steering knuckle is right here. It interfaces with this. I don't have that seal yet. It's actually still waiting for it in the package or in the mail. And then this, the one I just dropped, this other seal is for between the I guess the hub. So before, so let me see. Let's see. So before you press in the hub into the steering knuckle, there is a seal in between, and that's what this one is. So I'll show you that in the video. But like I mentioned, all these parts are going to be available in a Google spreadsheet for you guys, so you guys don't have to do too much hunting. So really I'm only missing the seal, the larger seal that goes right here with this side of the CV, and I'll show you guys that later when I actually get it. And then you'll also need a special tool. So with this nut, you need a special tool to torque this, and you can try to make your own, but I suggest just buying it. It's only like $15. It has like 4 pins in it. This thing is torqued to over 200 foot-pounds, so you're going to need a special tool. And then you're going to need some wheel bearing grease to re-grease all of these things. Re-grease these when you're pressing it, and just in general, grease everything, right? I went and picked up some of these donor hubs and steering knuckle, and what I wanted to let you guys know is this is actually off of a 2-wheel drive 4runner, and it's actually the same exact steering knuckle. You'll see they just put like caps in place for where the CV would normally go through, and to minimize the downtime on my truck, I'm just going to use this and rebuild the knuckle. One thing I know about mine is like this hole right here where it holds the ABS, the bolt broke on both sides, and then I tried to drill it out with a tap, and that tap broke. So that thing's a lost cause. So this is a much better option for me anyways. You'll notice that the brake disc shield is mangled, but I don't really care. I'm probably gonna have to cut it again for the Tundra brake upgrade that I did. And then everything else is going to be basically useless to me. So like there's the ABS connector. You know, make sure you have ABS that you actually pull from an ABS vehicle. There's obviously an ABS tone ring in there, and then on this side, everything here is pretty much junk. Like this wheel hub I'm not going to use. I already showed you the other wheel hub that I have. Take the bearing out, keep the ABS tone ring, and then use the new lock nut that I have, and then replace the 2 seals that I showed you. So I think this will be a better option. I only paid $40 total for both of these, and so normal price is typically $40 each. That's, you know, when they charge you the core, but I got lucky today. They were having a 50% off sale, so I got them both for half off. So I think that'll help me with you know, keeping the downtime on my truck. So I plan on rebuilding these first as far as I can. Really the only thing I need from my vehicle is the upper ball joint, because the ones I have on there are actually brand new. They don't have very many miles on them yet. And you'll see here, like the lower ball joint, I can just use the existing one. I don't have to do much work. So I'll just have to press that out and press the new upper ball joints in, and then press everything out and rebuild the whole entire steering knuckle. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm going to start taking apart the upper ball joint. I know this one's going to be a pain because that stud sticks up really high, and what I had to do on my 3rd gen was cut off the stud and then fit a socket over it, and I can use my jaw pullers over there. I'll show you guys how I do it. Ultimately what that means is I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get that new ball joint off of my existing knuckle, so I might end up having to buy a new one, which is gonna suck. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So make sure you take off the C-clip. There's a C-clip on here that holds this ball joint in, and if you don't take it off, you're never gonna get it off. But there's a wire holding this boot on, and the boot's already kind of ripped, so I'm just gonna rip it off. It's just a little piece of wire. It doesn't really do much. See here, nasty grease. So you see the stud is really tall, which means like all of your traditional ball joint presses are not going to have enough room to capture this. And if you try to use this jaw puller, it can't get under here to start. And if you unthread all of this, it's going to be really hard. So it's easiest just to cut the stud. That way this socket fits over it. This is a 27mm. And then get a piece of flat bar. You remember from the last project, you have to cover this hole, and then you can push down on it. So let me clean all this grease off. If you don't clean this grease and you start cutting it, it's gonna start flinging everywhere, which I'd rather not have grease in my hair. Alright. Here's that wire I was talking about. It's just twisted on here. So just untwist it, get it out of the way. Alright, so let's first take that C-clip off before I forget. It's right under here. You can kind of see it. You'll want to make sure you have some good pliers. This one here has teeth on it, which helps hold the C-clip. Otherwise, well, good luck. You're gonna have a blast trying to take it off. Alright. It's just a C-clip. Alright, let's get to cutting. Normally what I do is I cut at an angle. A lot of people, what they do also is they heat this up and then just whack it a couple times and it'll just fall right out. This vise is pretty small and it's barely holding it, as you can see. I'd rather not be whacking on it. Let's cut it safely first. So let me show you what I did here. So you can see here, I cut the stud off, and this 27 fits perfectly around that. It's the only way, well, the easiest way to get it off. And then underneath, you'll see there's barely enough metal on the outside of the ball joint to grab with the claws. So I'm going to be grabbing right around, hang on a second, right on the outside, and over here there's actually a thicker piece that I'm going to use, and then that'll allow this jaw puller to press this guy down. Alright, and now if you don't have an impact, you can just use a traditional socket and like one of these, hurt your arms. But I'm going to use this little guy. And everything's going to come crashing down when this thing comes out, but it doesn't matter. Alright, let's move on to the next step. This piece is kind of like that dust seal. If you have a 4runner with 4-wheel drive, it's on the front of the where the CV gets covered, and you have to pop it out, and a lot of people dent the hell out of it. So I'm going to dent the hell out of this to get this off. Let me see what the easiest method is going to be. So now you can destroy this because we're not going to be using this. Obviously the CV axle is going to go through here, and then you'll have a dust seal that goes on in its place. What a little bleep. There we go. Wow, this thing was rusted on too, which didn't help, but it's finally off. Let's see, did I do any damage? Didn't look like it. I'll probably sand this down later. So as I predicted, there is a lock nut in here. So that means that I'm going to be stalled because I don't have the tool to remove that. But I'm going to go ahead and at least unding the dent that's in there to prevent it from coming out. You just take a little thin screwdriver. There's actually the hole's already in here. If you hit this inside of there, it should slowly, oh, let's see, slowly bring that guy out. I gotta make sure I don't break these. These are straight from Harbor Freight. I think it was like $6 for a whole set. Okay, it's working. So let me see. Let me see if I can spin it so you guys can see. Yeah, so see where the ding went in? If you put your screwdriver inside of here and just hammer it, it separates it, and then you can leverage it out. And now you have more room, and now you can hit it at an angle and get it the rest of the way out. Pretty sure that's going to be enough to take it off, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to take this ABS wire out. It is a 10mm, and I'm going to also take out the brake shield, the dust shield. Those are 12s. And on mine, I don't know if these are broken. I know this one appears broken for sure. Oh, actually I don't have a bolt for this. I'm gonna have to go find another bolt. which I have plenty, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find one. But I don't know why on 3rd gens these all break, the ones that hold the brake, the ABS. There's actually a seal in this ABS sensor, and it's an O-ring seal. But I'm actually going to keep this because it's only a 2-wire connection. If mine ever break, I can just splice it in. Off-roading, you never know. Alright, that goes there. Maybe I'll put this guy back in. So, let's flip it around now. And let's get the brake shield off. These aren't that tight. Well, they are if you don't have a long wrench. Alright guys, so I finally got my tool. This is the lock nut socket that you need to remove the pin. Sorry for all the noise in the background. It's my garage. It's pretty windy today. This is what it looks like. It's just got 4 little pins, and it takes a 1/2 inch drive socket. So what I'm going to do to remove it is actually use my impact gun. You can see I have it right here. I'm going to see if that works. Oh yeah, comes right out. You want to make sure you push down as you're doing that. Yeah, so you can see here I got it off, no problem. And maybe if I would have hit this out a little bit more, it probably would have came out easier, but ended up working. And now you can see the ABS rotor here. And I'm pretty sure I can take that out now, so hang on a second here. Alright, so here's that ABS rotor. I think that's what the part is called. And I did confirm that this rotor is the same part number for all of our 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive front knuckle. So you can see now we've exposed the bearing, and this here is the wheel hub that we need to press down out of the bearing. And then once we press this out, we'll have access to the other side where we can take the seat clip off so that we can press the bearing out. And unfortunately I don't have press plates yet, so when I get my press plates I'll show you guys how to get everything out. Alright guys, I got a little impatient and I tried to fab up some custom press plates, if you will. So I went on YouTube and I was looking around for what people were doing to get off the wheel hub, and Timmy the Toolman has a great video. He uses 4x6s and press plates to spread the load, which is pretty smart. Unfortunately I don't have any press plates, and I found another YouTuber that was using an old brake rotor, and really the only purpose this really serves is it's a circular piece of steel, I guess. And you see this hole in here? This is where the wheel hub normally interfaces. So just imagine this piece was in here or underneath. So I just cut this out because now this hole now is going to be large enough for the wheel hub to pass through. And I'll leave a link for those videos for you guys. But when I put the assembly in here, then you can use the this press plate that came with the 20-ton jack, or the 20-ton press. You can put it in there to capture the under the steering knuckle and start pressing. The problem is these rotors were not strong enough to take the pressure, and you can see they actually broke in half. But I actually did get it past a little bit. You know, you can see here it's actually separated from the bearing, where the bearing is actually free. So it did do some work, but I couldn't get it all the way out and it broke. So I'm kind of stuck waiting for press plates now to do this. Well, to do this using Tim's method, where, you know, I have a press plate and then another press plate, and then that press plate that's horizontal will capture what these press plates were capturing before, and then use these on the bottom so that the 4x6s don't break. You can see it's starting to break already, which they should still work fine, but I'm at a standstill now. Alright guys, I'm back. So I've got my press plates finally, and I've just laid them out crisscross to spread the load. You need this piece right here because it fits under here perfectly between the wheel hub and the spindle. What I'm going to do is use these two first to press the wheel hub down a little bit so I can get more room, and then I'll switch over to this after that. This thing fits in here perfectly. So I've got it captured under this corner right here, and then this other corner over here. I already did one side, so this one should work. Let's see. Whoa. That's the first push. See it. I got it pretty flush. Show you. See, got it pretty flush down there. Now I'll switch over to the cup. Okay, let's take it out. There goes the bearing. Came out in little pieces, the bearing. And it broke. Ooh. Looks like the seal got destroyed. Here's the wheel hub without the lug nuts. Alright, so there's a seal on here that needs to come off. This guy right here. Just take something, just hit it. There we go. We're going to be replacing this as well. Just like the other one, this C-clip got deformed, and you can see one of the ears actually broke off, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to take it off now. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is try to pry the C-clip out, and this is how the other one looked. Look how bent it was. It's supposed to be flat. And I'm just gonna stick a screwdriver in here and try to get it out. Oh, there we go. This thing's gonna go flying. See if I can grab it. There we go, there it is. It's all bent, whatever. We're not using these. Alright, now we can take the bearing out. It goes this way. So the clip was holding it in, and now if we press it that way, it'll come out. So let's go do that. So I have a press kit, but I don't think none of the cups are large enough to capture the outer piece here, so I ended up just using the whole cup. And it worked fine. Alright. It's almost out. And now we can rebuild her. Alright guys, I got her all prepped up and ready for paint. I've just protected all the shiny surfaces that are being used for pressing. I don't want it to bind up anything when I'm actually pressing in the new stuff. So the upper ball joint, the wheel bearing, the wheel hubs. Splash shield I didn't really care, so I'm just gonna spray it. Probably just do a light coat. And the way I prepped these, I did it really fast. I basically used this degreaser on it. Basically sprayed it down a couple times. And then I use a metal wire wheel on some of the surfaces just to knock off extra dust. That was using my Dremel. It's actually over there. And then I degreased it again, and then I just power washed it with a power washer. And then I just wiped it down and taped it up. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's already painted black, as you can see, but I painted the same color. You can see here I got some flat black. I might decide to go satin actually to make it a little shiny. So you can see it turned out pretty good. I ended up going with gloss black, I believe. Or actually no, it was satin black. And so it's semi-gloss. And then I went with gloss clear coat. And I think it came out pretty awesome. I didn't get to paint the bottom, but because I had it sitting like this while I was painting it, but man, this thing looks amazing. Looks brand new. Also painted the dust shield. Looks a lot better.